black and colored is more serious than most people think it is. For this Negro, black, and colored establishes this legally. Therefore, this is already checked off. And since that's already checked off, they already have jurisdiction. It doesn't matter the venue. So they can have an improper court and still run the court. And then you can't speak because you got a European name, so he tells you to get a member of the Bar Association to speak for you because you're using their name. They ain't going to tell you like that, but that's what they're telling you. And because you're under this status, they're not obligated to uphold the Constitution because you're a foreigner to the law. But they got to deal with you, but they're dealing with you according to your status, but they ain't telling you that they created that status and you agreed to it. I mean, are you looking at this? So therefore, the 13th and 14th Amendment are not necessary for the salvation of the citizens and my people. You understand what the prophet said? Why he said it? You need to understand what's really happening here. So what happens is, when they go right to this, that means they can bring any kind of, they didn't feed the dog puppy chow this morning, so they pissed off at you. And whatever they make up is on you. Then they start making demands of you. And they're making demands of you with credit notes, right, of fiat currency that has no redeemable value, so you really can't even buy your freedom. And they can regulate its value by a strike of a pen to nothing or to its highest point, whatever they make it arbitrarily. So that's called a bill of attainder, isn't it? You see what I'm saying? So they hold our people as Negroes, blacks, and colored under bills of attainders all day long and pack jails with them, and they don't even know the truth about their nationality and birthright, so therefore they can't even counter it. You see the evil that these sellout Moors did to this movement? And that's all that is simply embodied right in your nationality card, with no other documentation. That nationality card alone embodies this. But if you don't study it, you'll never recognize it and never use it properly. I mean, are you understanding where we're going with this? And understand again why I say reject that driver's license as an identity and command national identity cards, but also understand why they don't have one. Because then they'd have to back up their lies, and it would be challenged by the rest of the civilized world, wouldn't it? Because America is no such thing as no American president, no American flag, and no American nation. And they'd have to admit that there are foreign corporations or plantations incorporated holding the welfare, the resources, and the personalities of the Moorish nation, which is the United States Republic, North America, i.e. the Great Seal. You. I mean, you see what's happening? So it's important for them to keep maintaining this black and white game. It's important for them to encourage you and, quote unquote, the black leaders that they assign to keep you, overseers, to keep this Negro, black and black thing going on. Because it hides the legal processes of stealing your birthrights. Because that's the only way it can be legally sustained. But in national names, they're in violation of international law as well as the Constitution and can be sued as individuals. Are you seeing why it's important for them to keep on playing like the excise tax instrument is an identity when it really isn't? Do you see the fraud in it? And you know that fraud has no statute of limitation. So that means if Moors really get together, the temples at large really should be instituted in a national suit. Anyhow, a class action suit on all those matters. And take it to court without giving them a penny. And have free access to the courts. Only as nationals, though. Because as Negroes, black, and colored, they don't have free access to the court. See, so you ought to understand how the game is played. So you got to learn some of the processes in order to use it against them, make it cost them to abuse you. And when you're locked in with some of these instruments, like those licenses and everything, and the Social Security cards, etc., that's why you preserve your rights with them, so they can't enforce the color of law behind them on you. And so the liens that they use against you on those instruments are neutralized. Islam.
Actually, everybody aboard should have
Come on. Islam.
Every organized political body aboard should have a pending lawsuit or some type of open case open right now, all over. But that's how we start to enforce this law to be recognized.
To enforce the Constitution.
Level. Is because if, on a national scale, if they're not accepting our identification and our nationality cards or whatever documents you have in your pocket, right then and there, a crime just been committed. They should be sued in private capacity and the organization or the corporation that they're working for. So if every Moor or every body of Moors, because everybody's supposed to be organized, every organized body of Moors was to get together and start filing suits, then you'll see a bunch of changes start to happen.
Yes.
Islam.
But if you don't command the enforcement of that Constitution, don't think they are, because they're foreigners. And understand, the organic states are not the corporate states, and the corporate states are not the organic states. Don't confuse the two. So don't confuse the organized corporate commonwealths and the corporate states with the organic physical land. They are not the same entities, nor is the governments that govern them. The deal is that the true laws of the government is dormant, and the dormant ones is really you. But you're dormant as long as you come under Negro, Black, and Colored and under those codes. And as long as you're subject to the Christian Black Codes of 1724, adopted in all the states after they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, and you're transacting business, buying and selling in those European names, they have legal guardianship over you under ward of the state. And ward of the state already establishes this status, so they bypass this. That automatically, because you're using their name, gives them jurisdiction. And even though they're locked under law to have a correct venue, they still have option to even run a criminal case in a civil court and a criminal case in a civil court and a civil case in a criminal court. They just do anything they want to do.
Where you get a copy of the UCC code?
Uniform Commercial Codes? Yeah. Or a general outline, you can get the Uniform Commercial Codes right in any law library. They have a set of books. Always go to your law library, study. And they have Uniform Commercial Codes there. They also have USCs or United States Codes. And you always look at them when you're dealing with issues, because that's where your law is. All right, so in all areas where there's Moorish Science Temple or Moorish Holy Temple of Science or Moorish institution, you always have a body of Moors organized that traditionally and by custom go to the library and go to the law areas and study these books. And get, as a matter of fact, what we're going to do is we're going to issue some briefs. I'll put some things in maybe in the next paper after this next issue on some of those codes. Also, Word, this is a radio station here in Philadelphia, 900 AM. That's the voice of the people. 900 AM radio presents Civil Alert. And that's Brother Sabir Bey. And they talk about mostly constitutional principles. So listen to that station, and you'll get a lot of information, because people call from all around the country and they discuss constitutional issues. So we're trying to use all the avenues that are available to inform the people. And do you have how many of these flyers? Can you pass some of the flyers out? Give them and just pass them back while we're talking. Give them to him. Pass them back. And don't hesitate to call in. And it's growing very quickly, because it's getting people constitutionally conscious. And keep in mind, and don't forget, that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And all these people who keep saying they're government are obligated to it. So don't let them do things to you or with you without you being aware of what's in that Constitution, particularly relative to due process, relative to yourself. Are we're clear on that? See, so not to be familiar with that Constitution is irresponsible on your part.
When you say UCC Code 1,
That's 207.
what does that state?
Basically what they, I mean, are you looking at this? So therefore the 13th and 14th Amendment are not necessary for the salvation of the citizens and my people. You understand what the prophet said? Why he said he uphold the Constitution? Because you're a foreigner to the law. But they got to deal with you, but they're dealing with you according to your status, but they ain't telling you that they created that status and you agreed to it. So he tells you to get a member of the Bar Association to speak for you because you're using their name. They ain't going to tell you like that, but that's what they're telling you.
That's how they behave.
And because you're under this status, they're not obligated to hold black and color. It's more serious than most people think it is. For this, Negro, black, and color establishes this legally. Therefore, this is already checked off. And since that's already checked off, they already have jurisdiction. It doesn't matter the venue. So they can have an improper court and still run the court.
That's right.
And then you can't speak because you got a European name.